Hey friends, welcome back. This is David Hong, and once again, it is my duty to share with you the habits, beliefs, and mindsets of high-performing Asian creatives. My guest today is Jeremy Sarai. He's a fitness content creator covering all the major social media platforms such as YouTube, TikTok, and Instagram. But that's not all. He's also an actor, entrepreneur, and a past bodybuilder. It was a very open, raw, vulnerable, and most importantly, a inspiring conversation. I had a really good time talking with him. We explore a wide variety of topics, but the main one centering around the thoughts of coming out of a traditional path of success, of being a doctor, lawyer, or engineer, and what it means to carve our own. If anything, you'll love his energy. He's such a kind person, and there's a type of buoyancy to him that I think will permeate to anyone who's listening. As always, if you want to bounce around, you can always do so by using the timestamps I provide. Without further ado, here's my conversation with Jeremy Sarai. Enjoy. Thank you for being on the show.
Of course, man. Thanks for reaching out. I love doing podcasts, and I'm really excited to just have this one with you, man.
Yeah, so where I want to start is your career shift. You mentioned in one of your podcast episodes, which is called 80/20 series for the listeners. I checked it out, and there's solid life and business advice, to be honest. In that podcast, you mentioned that your professor who you wrote a research paper with asked you if you want to save lives or if you want to make money. And that was a really deep question. It was a tough question. And it was refreshing because you were really honest with yourself and you chose the latter, saying you want to learn more about business and making money. And your professor said, if you want to make money, you got to hang around with other millionaires. And if you want to save lives, you got to hang around with other scientists like me. So since then, many of the audience members are already attuned with the idea of that you're the average of the five people you hang out with.
Yeah,
Did you
totally.
act? Did you actively start like reaching out or surrounding yourself with other, I guess, entrepreneurs, millionaires after that conversation?
Well, it kind of comes down to, when you're applying for a job and you have your resume and there's not much on your resume, at that point, it's like, what can you do? And if you present yourself to a millionaire right then and there, it's like, what value do you provide to them? Whether that's like entertaining them or actually providing a service for them or anything. It's like, I had nothing at that time. So at that very pivotal moment, I knew that, all right, sciences was something that I was not naturally good at, but I got great at it because I put time and effort into it day in, day out. And eventually, like, it just became like the second nature thing. And I was able to like really live and breathe it. But internally, I just wasn't happy. So after I left that field, I started focusing on the things that just really got me excited. And that was actually the idea of creating and sharing pieces of content. At that time, we had social media apps like Instagram. At this time, Instagram was literally the brown badge still. It was the brown app logo with the weird little rainbow like pinstripe. Like, that's how old this was. And at that time, like, I was obsessed with creating content, and the only thing that made sense to share were just fitness things. So that's what I would do over there. And then it kind of resonated with other people, and I started building like this audience through it. And I knew that when I share a photo on Instagram, again, at that time, Instagram only had photos. You can't do like videos was actually coming, but it wasn't there yet. So in my mind, I was like, all right, I want to like actually explain more than just like this selfie of me looking ripped, right? Like, how did I get here? And it just kind of clicked in my head, like video, YouTube. Let's go to YouTube. So I would post videos of like tutorials and stuff on YouTube. And then I kind of got bored in a sense with just only doing like fitness specific tutorials. So I started exploring vlogs. And this was actually where like one of those millionaire moments kind of happened because no one was watching my videos. I was averaging like maybe 50 to 100 views per video. But I remember posting this one vlog, and this guy named Randall Pitch, commented on that video, and he was like, yo, come through the warehouse. And at that moment, I think that was like 2015 ish, at that moment, like Live Fit was like booming, one of the biggest fitness apparel brands like in the whole industry. Like this guy just hit it off, knew the market and knew how to market his stuff. And to paint you another picture, like when you go to the LA Fit Expo that's held in Los Angeles at their convention center, it's a huge convention center. It was literally the Live Fit Expo. Like booths had lines, but their lines like went around the booth, around other booths, and all the way to the back, all around the convention center. Like that was just one line.
Yeah, I
And
remember.
yeah, so for me to like get like a comment from the CEO, it's like, dude, there's only 100 people watching my videos, but one of them was the CEO. I was like, dude, I'm onto something here.
Wait, what made
So
you think that made Randall comment on your video? You were first starting out as a YouTuber. I'm pretty sure, like you said, you don't have a lot of views at that time. So what made you think you stood out in any way?
so I mean, like side story too. I actually knew Randall as a kid. So growing up, I we were kind of like around family parties and stuff. And I remember this is another side tangent, but I remember my mom like huddling me in and like pointing at Randall. She was like, "You see that guy over there?" And to paint you a picture, like Randall was maybe I want to say like 15 at the time. Like or maybe a little bit older. I'm kind of exaggerating this, but he already had like tattoos everywhere and stuff. So my mom was like, "Yeah, that guy over there, don't hang around him. He's never gonna make it." So like that was my impression of Randall. Like we never really talked and stuff. I just saw him at family parties, not necessarily family by blood, but it was like friend of a friend at this family party, and I think he knew of me too, but like we knew each other all these years or knew of each other, but we never spoke like once, never hung out or did anything. So to answer your question, I think the thing that kind of resonated with Randall probably was the idea of storytelling, and this was like a new medium that at that time he wasn't doing for his own personal channels or standards, and it was just like interesting to him. Like by the end of the day, when you strip someone of their title, their status, and you just look at them as a person, you realize like this is another human being with interests that they are just genuinely interested in. Like, so for him, I think video and storytelling was like a concept that he was just genuinely interested in because jumping the timeline here, it's like later I've actually gone on to like do some contracted works for him, including commercials and his own vlogs.
So yeah, Randall, he reached out to you, and then I guess he's like the first entrepreneur you started to surround yourself with, and then from there, I guess it kind of uh, multiplied.
Yeah, without a doubt. It's because by the end of the day, too, like being just a normal person, Randall has friends too. And, you know, when you're at that level, you kind of want to surround yourself with like minded people in whatever space that is. So, like, one millionaire led to the next millionaire, and friends of friends would see, like, especially because we're in the social media route, like, another guy would reach out and he was like, "Hey, man, can you do what you do over there, over here?" Or, "Hey, you're the Live Fit guy. Like, can you help me out with this? Like, I see you doing videos of Randall. I found you off Randall's channels and pages." And it was just really cool to see like this endless feedback loop. So, I mean, I guess more of the story right here is really whatever you're doing, just kind of believe in it, pursue it, and you really don't know who's watching. Like I'm always looking for people right now too for Winners Collective, our clothing brand, just to see like who would kind of click with us and who we are genuinely interested in to have represent a brand and just putting that out there. It's like I'm literally looking just like how Randall was looking for talents too. You just don't know.
Yeah, and I'm assuming that kind of helped you in terms of making that career shift because it's definitely hard when you're graduating on your way to becoming a like a medical person, and turning that down is very disappointing for Asian families in particular. Now, did you
Oh
feel like
God.
that gave you yeah, do you feel like that gave you the confidence in terms of like confidence in terms of okay, there's someone who believes in me in their in this fitness social media route, so that's what I'm gonna take? Or do you feel like that didn't really play a big role? You kind of had your eyes set on something besides the medical profession to begin with.
It wasn't the interaction with Randall that like gave me the confidence. It was our first hangout and the result of it. So when we met up and he gave me the tour of the warehouse, it was great and all. And then the following day, he asked me like, "Hey, can you make a vlog for my channel?" And I was like, "All right." And at this time, I was like, I literally have nothing. I got nothing to lose. I have nothing. Like, I'm
Mm,
making $0 a day, and like to me, this is just fun. So I'm like, okay, whatever, cool, let's do this. I go to his warehouse. He books me for like his busiest day possible. I'm just trying to shoot and capture everything behind the scenes and all that. We go on and we publish this video titled "A Day in the Life of a CEO." And that video, at the time, Randall had a video that was 3 years old and it had 70,000 plays. So that was his best video. This video did 300,000 views in the first like week, and it just went viral for him. So I was excited about that. Like to me, I was like, oh my God, like I have something here. Like I have an eye, or like I'm onto something. And the next day after too, like we never discussed this or anything, but Randall literally gives me a check for like $500. And that was the first time anyone has ever placed a value on my creative works. And
wow.
to explain like creative works in general, it's like as a creator, you're creating things out of thin air. So you don't really know if this is going to be like good or not. And you don't really know if there's a value on it. And this was the first time anyone has done that for me. That was the moment where I was like, I have something. Like I can actually do something with this. And that was when I started really ramping up and building up the confidence.
Yeah, wow. That's a crazy story. Thank you for sharing that. Now, I'm gonna go a little deep. I hope you don't mind. Now, I feel
Yeah,
like
sure.
this could be a thing or not. I'm curious on your point of view. I feel like a lot of us need to hit that rock bottom in terms of there's so much for me to like gain. Like, what am I really doing with my life? Like, we have to kind of like hit this moment of reflection. And I think that's when kind of like the growth trajectory starts. So, for example, on
Yeah.
my end, I feel like I came out of a long term relationship and that kind of put me in this downward spiral. And then that's what kind of made me really reflect in terms of who I am, what do I want, etc. Now, from there, that's kind of like that moment of truth. That's when I'm like, you know what? I really don't know how to live life basically. Like I'm looking for help in any way, shape, or form. Like that's when I really truly got humbled. So do you feel like people need to go through that part of life?
I would say yes and no. Yes, in the sense that like that growth trajectory does happen, but I mean, I've seen stories and moments where people hit rock bottom and they stay rock bottom, and I feel like that happens more often than the other.
Mm,
Like it's almost like an internal factor to where um like you have to find that motivation to cultivate whatever it is that you believe in to see through, which is why I say yes and no to this, because it's like if you go through life and you're happy with where you're at and everything and you just continue to go in this linear progression of just good, it's like why go through a moment of suffering? Like well I guess kind of a side tangent here, but one of the things I'm most grateful for is not necessarily having one of those devastating stories, not having like a crazy like upbringing or coming of age type story, you know? Like I'm grateful that I was in that moment where I could take that rock bottom where I was just making $0 per day, but in a sense, like I knew my parents would support me if I wanted to go back to school. They were definitely not supporting me with some of the choices I was making pursuing social media. But it was like a safety thing to know, like, okay, if I want to go back to school, I can. I can totally do this. We can see this through. But I really want to see what I can accomplish doing the things I love. And with that rock bottom moment for me, I would definitely say it's completely defined how I value and perceive everything, especially time. Like that was like the number one thing. Like these days, I've realized like money kind of almost flows like water. Like once you figure out how to make an income, you just get good at it, especially when you come from rock bottom and zero. But the one thing that I'm always trying to buy back is time. Like anytime I can spend money to get time back for myself, I'll do it. Time back for my family, my wife, I'll do it. And that's just, I think that mindset only comes from when you hit rock bottom in a certain place too. Does that answer your question kind of, or
Yeah, I feel like you had a great kind of perspective in terms of having that gratitude. And I feel like in terms of being a content creator, we're hitting certain lows so frequently. uh I mean, I
oh
can
my
speak from
god.
personal experience. Like the highs are
Yeah.
really high, the lows are really low. So maybe
Yeah.
that can make up for it, and if we're kind of like putting that lens on it. So speaking of content though, like with fitness especially, there's so much fitness content out there, and there's so many people who are, let's say, jacked or talented. Now, how do you navigate that comparison? What even people kind of might be telling you, I don't know, but maybe people who would also tell you, "Hey, Jeremy, you should be like this person," or Jeremy, like maybe there's haters out there, and they're like, "Jeremy, you're not like this person," or "Jeremy, you're just copying this person." Like, how do you navigate all that noise? I'm curious.
It's so hard. I'll be honest, it's so hard. Like I get jealous all the time too, because on top of just being a creator, like running my own business, I come from like a analytical and data driven like standpoint too. Like I've seen accounts start like literally just end of 2020 and they're already at like 1.2 million followers. And it's like, dude, I've built my 250K following page over 5 years, and this dude did it in like fucking 10 months. Like, like, and then you have other people, yeah, telling me like in terms of like body image, like I'm gonna be honest, I feel like at one point I went through like a body image disorder because like I wanted to get as big as possible and looked as jacked as possible too. But when I started pursuing acting, my manager was like, that's not a good look for you because if you look like this, we can't put you in like any, like you can't look like the 16-year-old student. You can't look like the friend here. You're only going to look like a bodybuilder if your physique is that big. So now in the fitness world, people would tell me like, oh, you're just too small, bro. You have no muscle, da 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 da. And then in the acting and media Hollywood world, they're like, you're too big. We can't use your
Mm.
look for anything. Like one time I almost booked a national BMW commercial. This literally the scene was just going to be I pull up in a BMW, I'm at the beach, open the trunk, bring the stuff out to the beach. And I think that was going to be $20,000. In the last moment, they found some fitness pictures of me, the casting directors, and they literally told my manager he's too big. And
What?
it just dropped. Yeah, like I was like, "What the fuck?" So like this is like a real thing, and it's pretty tough to navigate through that, especially when you have like the internet and people telling you one thing over here, and then like your manager and casting directors telling you a whole different thing over there. Like you as a person, you're kind of just now like, where the fuck do I go? Do I want to look this way or do I want to fulfill that way? And it's like this way. The social media side is like what drives like my current businesses, and then the acting Hollywood side is like something I'm trying to pursue. So it makes sense to invest into opinions on that direction, and you're kind of just like you internally start building noise in your own head.
Yeah, dude, that sounds so challenging. I can totally imagine. Now, so is there a certain north star or way to kind of center yourself in certain moments of high stress? So let's say, would it be your wife, or let's say, is it like meditation or journaling? Like there should be something that's anchoring you at some point at certain moments, no?
Yeah, yeah, totally. I'd say like at the forefront of everything, the number one thing I have for sure going for me is without a doubt my wife. Like being able to just talk to her and in a sense it almost sounds like she's my therapist too. But maybe I mean you could even define it like that. Like being able to just talk to her and voice my feelings as is with like nothing held back and getting her opinion and take on that stuff goes like such a long way, and it allows me to like find my own voice of reasoning. And by the end of the day, I realized the thing that got me to where I am and the thing that I need to continue to pursue in order to be successful in this field is just my own happiness. Because when I first started making the content in general, I was happy. Like I was excited to like prop this camera up and shoot like a workout thing and share it, and then see the comments of like, yo, you changed my life, or oh my god, I started doing this and I'm down 6 pounds. And like that feedback loop just drives this amazing sense of purpose, especially as a fitness trainer. But by the end of the day, it always just comes back to my wife. And I feel like all of my best moments in my life were a result of my wife.
Wow, that's touching. And in terms of like that balance where like, okay, the acting people want me to look thinner and the bodybuilding world or the fitness world want me to look bigger. It reminds me of a story with Arnold Schwarzenegger, and he was trying to pursue acting as well after coming out of bodybuilding. And
Hmm.
all the agents, they're like, no one's gonna hire you. You're too big. You have this accent. And then what's very empowering, which is it's a hard concept to really embed into myself personally, and it's that he believed that those flaws would actually be the thing that helps him get that role or get that gig or whatever. Like he flipped it into like an empowering belief. He used some kind of mental jujitsu there, and I feel like that's something a lot of us can benefit off from that mindset, and also kind of just that mindset of it's all about the effort. It's not about the outcome. There, we can do our best, and that's literally all we can do. There's so many factors outside of our control, and to waste our energy like worrying or bemoaning on it, where there's a concept in philosophy where you're basically suffering twice. And
Hmm.
I'm
Yeah.
a big I read a lot of philosophical books, so that's why I may bring out certain concepts here and there. So yeah.
Mhm. No, I love that. Yeah.
In terms of, okay, so with content creation, like you said, it's challenging with y- uh, posting content, etc., because there's all these outside noise. How do you push yourself to keep putting out this content, especially in the beginning too, when there could be zero traction? Like there could be like one person who says, "Yeah, you're changing my life." Like, is that enough to kind of like fuel you to keep going?
I think so. Like when you get that one person that comes in and just comments and does that, but like consistently. So you have fans and then you have super fans. Like when you get your first super fan, it's almost like this internal driving factor of like, I can't let this person down. Like if I don't post anything today, like they're going to be looking out for it. You kind of have like this extrinsic motivational factor of like, dude, I got to do this, and if not for myself, at least for that person that's waiting and expecting this piece of content. And it's honestly really cool to get that type of feedback loop. And I feel like as a creator, you know you've made it when you can start actually creating your own products, or you start putting a monetary value on certain pieces of your content, certain aspects or services, and those super fans are actually paying and buying it. That's like a it's one thing to like get a like, but another thing to receive a dollar from from anyone on the internet, because essentially by the end of the day you're all strangers. And once you start figuring out how to do that and you start resonating with your own audience, I feel like that is just motivation above like anything. Like if I were to drop a t-shirt and I only do 100 units or something and 50 of them fly off the shelf, like to me, that's still exciting. Like the fact that like, wow, 50 people wanted to buy this shirt and they have it. And then when they get it, they're reposting it on their stories. It is absolutely just amazing to see and do. Like, especially when they're like not even in like the same state that you are, when you see it coming like, so we're in California. You're in California too, right?
Yeah, I'm in LA.
Yeah. So when oh yeah, see? But like when you're in like LA and then you see your shirt or your product being shouted out from like Alaska. Like I've never fucking been to Alaska in my life, and it's like, what the heck? Like, how did this end up there? Like, how did you even find me? Like that little like connection right there is so motivating. But I mean, to answer your question, to even get to that point, I feel like that high is the same high as to when you're a creator starting from zero and you get that one comment. You'll click on that profile and you'll see like, dude, this person is from Dubai. Like, how did they find me? I've never been to Dubai in my life. Like, it's still just as cool and it's amazing, and it's this endless loop of positivity.
Yeah. And to add on to that, let's say people are fueled by the beginner stages of getting those engagements of comments and likes and that positivity. However, like you said, they can only focus on what they can control, which is creating that content. And let's say, their growth trajectory isn't where they want it to be. How can, if they're first starting out in terms of creating content, it doesn't have to be fitness, but it's content of any kind in all social media platforms. How do you personally get yourself to enjoy the process, or how could you advise other people to enjoy the process? Like, do you have any thoughts there?
I would say first understand what your process is. Like, what does it take for you to make this piece of content? Like, do you have to plan it or can you just wing it? And then from there, how do you record it? Is it just iPhone or is it DSLR or do you need special mics? And then after you have this piece of content recorded, how do you edit it? How do you post process it? And once, like, at least that's kind of like my process right now. Once you have like this like roadmap of just this is what it takes to create this piece of content, what parts of these things that you don't like, which part do you not like? Because I rarely meet creators that love every single thing that they do. Like they actually just want to focus on like the sheer content creation side of it. Like they don't enjoy recording or editing the stuff. And once you're able to kind of address those things, it's like you can start finding people, if your finances and budgets allow it, to fulfill and fill in the other parts that you don't enjoy. And that's kind of like how you create more of a sustainability loop. Like at one point, um, I started looking for interns to help me with the editing process because I realized like that was becoming really, really draining for me at the volume of content that I was churning out. And I was just not excited. Like it was cool in the moment to be like, all right, I got this idea. We're executing on this. I've shot it. I've set up the studio. Everything looks amazing. And then now it's like, okay, I still have to work with this piece of content and edit it. Like this is not fun. I just want to go to the next idea already. And like finding someone to help me edit and just tackle on the parts that I don't challenge allowed me to love the creative process overall.
Mm. And I think this goes back to focusing on the 20% that produces 80% of the results, which is a
Exactly.
shout out to your podcast as well.
I like what you did there.
Yeah, yeah, yeah. So I'm a big fan of that concept as well. In terms of, I mean, since we're on that topic, I want to talk or ask you about that application in other aspects of your life. So let's say it is the content creation. Like, what is the 20% that you focus on? Is it like 5 hours of sitting down, brainstorming content ideas? So yeah, I kind of just want to play around with this concept.
I think the hardest part to answer that was, well, for starters, COVID kind of threw everything off and it made me scared to like get human interaction. So right now I'm kind of actually funneling and doing everything on my own, where that's like the shooting and the editing process, but it helps to actually have like an in-home gym. So now it's like I don't have to drive to LA Fitness or find like a gym that I can shoot at. So that kind of like brings it back down to the 20 factor, where it's like, all right, we're going to find, since I don't have access and I can't get help that easily with what I want to do, I'm going to make my process as efficient as possible. Like just streamline it to where, all right, we have the separate space. We can leave these lights up permanently and they'll always be in the same position and the lighting and everything will always be perfect. So I don't have to think about that. We can leave these cameras dedicated to this exact spot. So when it's time to shoot, it's great. And when we're working out, like for ourselves, it's not in the way. And after I finish with that, I can literally just bring that little SD card and just plug it into my computer, and everything's all set in stone right here. And I literally did not have to go anywhere or do anything. So now it eliminates variables such as traffic and like mood swings and stuff, because it's like I'm at my own home, everything's already here, and there's no excuse or reason as to why this can't be done. So I would say now, like the 20 factor there is just like optimizing everything I can to the best of its ability, and understanding that because I'm not willing to be open to receiving the help just because of COVID and human interaction, I just want to be safe. This is what I have to do to optimize to just work at the utmost capacity that I can.
Yeah, and to reach at to be at the level you're at, I'm pretty sure you put in so many hours of work, so much thought process. And I remember you talking about being obsessed to the point where your priorities with creating content, it's higher than, like, let's say your priorities with eating a lunch or dinner.
Yeah.
So what's a story that you have in mind, that where you're like, there's this one time where you stayed up like all night creating content? Is there a certain story that you can remember
Oh my god,
that showcases? Yeah.
there's too many stories. That's the problem. So, I guess one of the ways and reasons of why I got really good at making YouTube videos or videos and ads in general was when I had nothing and I just wanted to churn out content. It didn't make sense to me to like publish only one video a day and just like try to line up the other things. And at that time, vlogs was really prevalent. You'd see like one of my biggest influences was Casey Neistat. Like he was doing a YouTube vlog a day, and I was like, dude, why can't I do that? So I literally made like 7 videos a week for 5 months straight. And if you think about that, like when you live and breathe through that process, it's really churning, it's so demanding. But as you do everything day in and day out, you start figuring out things that create efficiency through all those processes. So, like, one of the little tidbits that made me get really good at editing was if you look at your keyboard and you have to figure out how to do hotkeys, I was like, having to shift my hands into different places all the time was a waste of time. So I figured out how to put all my hotkeys to my left hand, so my right hand would just use the mouse. But it was like that level of obsession that like created these efficiencies, and I was literally able to churn these videos out like nonstop. And then on top of that, like I was taking contract work for other companies like Live Fit, and a few of them to name would be like Dojo, Kingston Coffee. One of them was actually like a pay per view commercial for UFC. But in order to actually get there, it was like, how do I do this the most efficient way possible? And it was just being obsessed and just loving like that process and figuring out like, all right, how do I do this the best way possible? So again, like the keyboard example, the sitting there and researching and understanding how to do things. And I mean, like to paint you a picture, like some of the gigs that I did, like in the grand scheme of things, like I remember one of them was like I made a 1 minute video, and for that video, I was contracted $4,000. And when people hear that ratio to like that time, it's just like that's not fair. Like that's a lot of money. Like, dude, you're just rolling in it. But by the end of the day, it's like they're not just the client's not just paying me for that minute of production. They're paying me for the hours and hours I spent like optimizing, finessing, and really learning this skill that allows me to make this minute so interesting. And into the actuality of like shooting it, it might even just take me anywhere between 28 to 48 hours, or maybe even less, just because at that time it's like I just knew already what I was looking for. And I went out, didn't waste time, and I just got everything I needed to like the utmost like level of perfection that I wanted it. But this result only came because I was doing those vlogs. I did it repetitively over and over. I think to date, you can't find those videos because I've unlisted them on YouTube. Because I was like, I don't know what I said and if they'll offend anyone in this like 2021 cancel culture. But
Mm.
I've done like over 275 videos. just vlogs. And in order to like even produce that level of that volume of videos and to actually do that consistently, like you got to figure like there's something that clicked in your brain that allowed you to like, all right, this is the best way to do this. This is the most optimal way to do this. And if you want to live life too, like you have to do it like this.
Yeah, no wonder on the blog portion. I remember I was doing some homework and looking through your YouTube videos, and it said like vlog number 100 something, and I'm like, wait, what? Like, where's the? Did I miss like all the other 80? Like, what's going on? Okay, so yeah, I feel like even myself, I forget like only the tip of the iceberg is shown through media, through our
Yeah.
success, whatever. They don't see all the 80% of the work that's underneath.
Oh yeah,
So
100%.
yeah, yeah, yeah. And this is more of a specific question because me being in the fitness kind of world, I understand how important it is to have a certain physique to look credible or be credible. Now,
Right.
you juggling all these tasks, you're going to these acting gigs. You have to consume the right amount of the right food and the right portions of it. Like, and you and I and me myself, and I feel like a lot of Asian people I know, we're big foodies. We love food. So, and especially like if you're going on vacation with your wife, like you're not, or you're having dinner with some friends that you haven't met in a while. I'm pretty sure, you don't want to be. I mean, maybe you are the person who kind of just like just drinking water while everyone's eating. I don't know, but there could be times when you're just like, you know what, I want to enjoy the food with the rest of my people. So how do you juggle that? Like that's something tough. I feel like.
You know, I would say if you asked me that like 5 years ago, I would have been like, yeah, that's tough. But today it's like, no, it's easy. Like I just get it. I know how to manage it. So well, I think about 4 or 5 years ago, I was religiously tracking my food. Like I would weigh everything out. Like side tangent story to just paint you this picture of how I was tracking my food. It was my birthday and all my friends and everyone were gathering together and I wanted to just stay on my diet for no apparent reason. Like I just wanted to stay true to my diet. Like that was just my level of priority for like my plan and my diet. So my girlfriend at the time, not my wife, she brought all my friends together. We meet at Yard House and everyone's ordering food. And I fucking bring my Tupperware of food that I cooked and weighed out at home to Yard House. I remember the freaking server, she was so bothered by that. She was like, "You can't be having that here. This is Yard House." In my mind, I was like, "Yeah, it's Yard House. It's not like a Mastro's or something. Like, what's the big deal?" And like everyone already ordered food. Like we're good. Like this is literally a party of like 12, 15 people. Like you made a big buck out of this. What's just me eating Tupperware, right? So she's like, "I'm gonna go talk to the chef." She comes back with an empty plate and makes me like plate my Tupperware food on their plate. And anyways, the ridiculousness behind that story was just show you like how obsessed I was with tracking my foods and being consistent. Like I would do that every single day, and if like events or whatever came up, I'd be down to show up to it, but I would still prioritize my goal of hitting my macros, staying on top of the target and understanding this is just what it takes, or this is to my knowledge of how I will achieve this goal, and I'm going to stick to it and see it through.
I want to
And
quickly
I
interject, and I want to give a shout out to your wife for being so understanding, because I feel like yeah, it could be challenging. I mean, I know from personal experience where my ex didn't appreciate kind of who I am and what my goals were at that time. So I
Mhm.
feel like it could be rare meeting someone who's very supportive like that. So just to give a shout out to
Oh
your wife
yeah.
there.
Oh yeah, like 1000%. Like I always say like I don't know what I would do without her. Like especially pursuing a lot of the things that I do too. Like I know with like social media and like my online coaching business, like at one point it just didn't make sense to her yet, but she just continued to support me and like today it's like that whole vision just kind of all came together and she's like, "Yeah, I see it. Like it makes sense now." And you just you definitely need someone that can actually support you, whether that's directly or indirectly, but without that it's really hard to pursue like some of those creator nuances that you want to. Like, imagine someone just doing skits for a living. It's like, how do you make money from this? And you don't really know until like you see the whole career path through, and you're like, oh yeah, it's from brand deals, or oh, I got signed to Netflix, I'm an actor now. Like, you just don't know where life
Mm,
takes you, but having that rock and that support system without a doubt makes the journey that much easier. But
yeah.
going back to the tracking thing, yeah, so I did that religiously for a really, really long time. I'd say like minimum 4 years, and then I finally started breaking out of the habit of tracking. I actually just logged onto my fitness pal the other day, side story, and I saw a few friends still tracking. Like, shout out Andrew Yuchi. That thing said Andrew logged in for 2066 days in a row. And I was like, what the fuck? Like, that's like 2066 days. I was like, dude, that's
Yeah, how many years is
insane.
that? That's like 6 years. Or it's
Like,
more than
I
that.
don't
Yeah.
even. I can't even math that far anymore. I'm like, dude, what the heck? Like, how are you still showing up for this every single day? You still paying for premium too, or what? But yeah, like, he was my workout buddy, and yeah, like on my fitness pal, I just kind of stopped doing that because I wanted to try working intuitively, and I started doing my nutrition backwards, where instead of actually actively tracking, I would plan my day out in advance. So if I stick to my plan and followed it through, that would have meant like I hit my macros to a T 100% every single time. And if I have deviations, then I can just decide, like, you know what, I'm not going to have meals 2 and 3 for today, and I'm going to allocate those calories for when I go out with friends. And that type of approach has became a lot more flexible. It's allowed me to like keep my physique, and allowed me to like really hang out with friends and embrace like the boba when we want to.
So you created this system for yourself now where you've done this long enough where you know how many calories, roughly speaking, a certain dish is. And then you can kind of eyeball as well in terms of, okay, I eat this for
Yeah.
breakfast. And if I'm going out for dinner, I should keep a lighter lunch.
Exactly.
Since we're on the topic of like nutrition and fitness and we're both trainers, if someone is watching, what's like the basic nutrition advice you'd give that's not really promoted on social media. So, for example, for myself, I would basically advise just a higher intake of protein, especially in the morning, because that kind of curbs your satiety. And that, I mean, this is in terms of helping people who want to lose some weight, and
hmm
it has a higher thermogenic effect. So you're burning more calories in that as well. So is there something like that where you're like, you know what, start with this, or do you have just like a totally different approach?
Kind of a totally different approach. I would say the
Okay.
number one thing to really take home is there's no such thing as bad food. Like, no such thing as bad food. Like, people will look at burgers and say like that's bad. But the problem with that type of thought process is you now start creating this bad relationship with food, and you think like only brown rice, chicken, and broccoli is going to get me there. Only this clean, whole food type is going to get me there. Like, through my years of tracking and actively working with another coach, like for myself, and experimenting with wild diets and stuff, I realized like if it's man-made or if it's made by mother nature and we're like able to consume it, like it's safe for the human body to an extent. I mean, you got like processed sugars, like
Hmm.
this this kind of like, it's probably not the greatest thing for me, but it's like it's still consumable, and you're still able to live on. Like, it's not poison that's killing you immediately, right? There's no such thing as bad food. That would be like the number one thing I tell anyone that starts a diet, because I don't want people, at least my clients, to like walk down like the candy aisle and just feel terrible about their like body image, self-esteem, and everything, because it's like, oh, I'm gonna grab like that bag of Oreos and this is like my guilt thing. Like, when you actually track food and you understand like what you're putting into your body, that makes a world of a difference in how you approach nutrition and food altogether. Like, these days I'm grabbing the boba and not even like second guessing it. I'm like, yeah, I know how many carbs I'm going to get here. I'm going to pull back from that. I'm good. I'm chilling. I'm happy. And then it's like when your physique responds in the appropriate way too, it's like you start realizing, and it's like really eye opening to see like, yeah, food is actually just fuel. It's how you choose to fuel your body. Like if you picture your body as like a supercar and you're putting premium in every time, but once a blue moon you put in regular, it's like, yeah, your body's not going to operate efficiently on that regular fuel, but when you're ready to go back on track, put premium and you're good to go. And it's that's kind of how like I've been approaching nutrition with all my clients, and it's a much more sustainable approach than like completely eliminating sugars or overloading on protein or doing keto and going super high in fats, because like we've done a ton of that stuff. Like I've done that with clients too because they've wanted to go with that approach, but it just comes down to it not being sustainable. And to me it's like a diet is something that should only remain as a diet, but be built into a lifestyle. And if you can't turn this into a lifestyle and you can't make it sustainable, like there's no point investing into this because you're just going to yo-yo back and you're going to be back at square one. That's my thing behind food.
No, I love it. It's you're playing the long game approach, and it's about shifting your identity where you're now become this person who is fit, who chooses healthier options instead of, you know, having that guilt anytime you choose a certain item just because there's a certain stigma around that. Am I getting that right?
Yeah. Yeah, 100%. Like if you want to binge out and have pizza tonight, you just got to know and understand like, yeah, you're going to be going high in fats tonight. You may see a slower performance level if you didn't work out already. Get ready for a rude awakening later today. Like you just got to know. It's like that's just the type of fuel you're putting into your body, but when you're ready to come back, you look at other foods, explore other options, and just understand like you're not killing yourself. You're just right now making some poor choices with food, but there's no good or bad food. That's what I want to
Mm.
get home by the end of the day.
Yeah, I love your perspective on that. And I heard boba from you a couple times. It seems like you like boba. What's your go-to boba item?
So I think this comes from like just tracking foods too, but I usually do some type of black coffee with boba. So Seven Leaves is a very hot place for me because they have a different variety of coffee. But I
Shout
say
out to
black
Seven
coffee
Leaves.
because, yeah, right. I say black coffee because if you've tracked it, it literally has 0 calories. I like the bitter taste of coffee in general, and when you add boba in there, that's anywhere between 20 to 40 grams of just pure carbs and sugar. So I know, like, all right, my next meal is going to look more keto, where instead of rice, I'm going to use like squash or something and just shred that up. And I'm going to get my carbs from the boba. So that's literally like what juggles through my head as like a cause and chain reaction of like, this is how I'm allocating the calories. This is where it's going. This is where it's coming from.
Yeah, I totally do the same. Where I first kind of like look at the activity I'm doing. So let's say I'm doing very endurance based exercises. So before that, I'm like, okay, I probably would like to intake a little bit more carbs. I would probably like to intake a little bit more what do you call it, electrolytes, sodium, potassium, so my body can function well, and
Yeah.
then kind of like allocate things appropriately. So I love that approach. So we learned from the master here. So everyone get the black coffee with boba, and that's usually, like he said, it's about 20 to 40 grams of calories. He said, right?
Of carbs.
Oh, carbs. There you go. There you go. Alrighty. Uh, we're kind of on to the final stretch. Before we go on to the rapid fire questions, I want to ask one more question in terms of content creation, and we're kind of like reeling it back into more of like the deeper focus topics of like family, culture. So coming out of university and you're kind of now trying to showcase yourself as this, you know, bodybuilder, social media influencer, actor. How do your parents, you know, like, yeah, how does your mom see you now? Like, when was that shift and what was that like? Can you give a specific story if you remember?
I mean, I feel like the shift and everything has actually been really recent because, like, once I started pursuing social media and everything that followed suit thereafter, my mom would still like randomly send me job applications of like, "Hey, look, there's a new position opening at my work. Like, you should look into this." And at the time, like I was actually starting to make like a pretty decent living from my businesses, and I'm like, "Mom, I want to focus on this." Like originally my mind was like, I want to go out there, I want to become a pediatrician, and I know I want to help people like physically somehow, some way, like through health. So in my mind, like pediatrician was like the original goal, and that's why I pursued sciences at UCI. But I kind of fell in love with fitness, and I was like, this is just, I just like this space that much more. It's more hands on, and um, to me, it's like, if you're healthy and you're practicing fitness, it's almost like a preventative measure of like things to come. Like if you're healthy, you're not going to develop type 2 diabetes. Like if you're actively exercising, taking care of yourself and doing this, like you're not going to essentially develop like high cholesterol, assuming like you're staying on top of your nutrition and stuff too. But just the act and the practice of doing all these health related things, it's like these are all preventative measures to like those moments of like no one wants to show up to the doctor because one, it's hard to get an
Mhm.
appointment, and two, like it's almost never a good reason of why you're there. Like I can't remember like a happy moment I was at the doctor for.
Mm. Yeah.
So to me, I was like, I can help people and it would benefit them in this direction. And it's really cool to like have this as an option, and social media is making it possible. So I'm going to see this through. During that whole time period, like my parents had the hardest time like understanding what I wanted to pursue. And I couldn't even explain it either because at that time, like there was no like career path, like just laid out, like if you do these posts and you do this, like you will have a career here. So it's kind of like an unpaved road almost. And especially with my parents and me being like a first generation kid here too, like their idea of success is like going through college, getting like your bachelor's and your master's or PhD, and then pursuing like one of these well respected careers. And for them to see me stray away from that path, I know without a doubt it hurt them so much. And now I'm kind of like almost getting to like their shoes where like I want to have kids in the near future, and I'm thinking about like, dude, if my kid wants to do this or that, like how will I feel about that? Like I don't know what success looks like. I'm still continuing to define that process day in and out. But for my parents, like I can't imagine how they felt knowing that like they invested this much into their kid. Like they literally escaped the Khmer Rouge. Like my parents are describing stories of like literally being shot at, running through wheat fields, and like hopping on boats and somehow traveling and making it here to America, all to see their kid posting half naked selfies on Instagram and calling that a career. Like, can you imagine like what they're going through? Like, I knew to an extent, like, this is the animosity like they may be feeling towards my actions, but I really want to see this through. And internally, I promised myself, I was like, if I'm going to do this, I'm going to make sure I'm the best at this. So at least my parents can have that. They can say I'm the best at whatever it is I'm doing and seeing through. And one of the biggest things they were always worried about was like, will I ever be able to afford a home, afford a car, and, just take care of myself? And today it's like, we've literally been able to check all of those boxes. It's like, dude, I just closed on my first home. We're kind of here right now, and
Congrats.
I'm healthy. Thank you. Yeah, it's funny. I've actually never worked a real job really in my life, and I mean, I've done the application process. I've sent resumes out, but now I'm kind of like in the opposite spectrum where like, all right, I do need help. I don't know what kind of help I need, or I don't know who can provide the specific help, but it's time to start looking for help and like hiring people. So now it's like this whole role and process just completely flip-sided, and it's like really hard to explain that to my parents. Like, Mom, I don't need any more job applications. I actually need other people's resumes to see like who can help me do this. And but I like if for anyone like listening to this podcast, if you want to pursue something that's just kind of like completely out of the norm and different, you have to believe in it, and you have to believe in yourself so much to the point that you don't hear the noise from other people's opinions, including your own parents. Because for me, it probably took me 4 to 5 years for my parents to like start to see like, wow, this is actually a business, or this can actually be a career, and he's actually able to take care of himself. Like, I think with Asian parents, um, tangibility, I hope that's a word. Like
Yeah.
having a tangible outcome is the most convincing thing that you can do for them. And for me to like create my business to show them like I'm able to take care of myself, to show them like, oh my god, we have a house now, like that was like the thing that kind of like flipped their switch to like, okay, we did it. We raised the son, and he's happy, he's healthy, he's did it. It looks different from what we envisioned, but he did it. Like we don't have to worry about him anymore. But yeah.
I want to say I'm genuinely glad that you picked this route, because not only are you influencing a lot of people in the fitness route, but I feel like a lot of entrepreneurs and people in ways that you feel like you didn't know you were impacting. So I really want to kind of give that shout out. And also, I feel like we need more role models in terms of helping people in general, not just Asian people, but people coming out of this paradigm of being pigeonholed in terms of this is what success looks like. You have to be either a doctor, lawyer, or engineer. Like those are the only three.
Yeah.
Uh, but no, success can be defined in in a very broad spectrum. And like you said, it's something that you're continually cultivating. It's something that you're continually still shaping yourself. And lastly, actually, I forgot what I was gonna say, but overall, just like being a big source of inspiration. So I thank you for that, Jeremy. Thank you.
Oh man, thank you for just allowing me to kind of share that story. Like, I mean, never in my life did I think I was gonna be a role model to anybody. Like, if you saw me in high school, middle school, and all, like I was literally that kid that wore the same sweater every day, was very to myself, super introverted. I still am introverted by heart. No one believes me when I say that, but if you ever see me in a new setting, I don't go out of my way to say hi. I'm just really shy, actually. But it's like I didn't aimed to become a role model. I just continued to pursue things that interested in me, and I've always invested back into myself and always betted on myself. So, yeah, for your listeners, if you can take the chance to invest on yourself in anything, you can't go wrong. You only lose when you give up on that momentum, when you let that momentum go. And even if you lose, hopefully you learned a lesson that will allow you to pick yourself back up for the next investment, for the next endeavor. Because if you look at it from that way, you honestly never lose. Everything has a time, has a place, and a purpose, and you honestly don't know when something will happen for you.
Those are some powerful lessons. Preach, Jeremy. I want to kind of I want to or what do you say, transition over to the rapid fire questions. Are you ready?
All right, I'll be honest. I glanced at him, but I was like, you know what? I'm gonna just get my genuine reaction to him. So I'm not gonna read these questions thoroughly. So here we go.
I love it. I love it. This is gonna be more fun then. If it was only your ad playing before people can skip on YouTube, what words would you have it say?
Do more.
Do more.
Literally, just do more. I hope like that gets people motivated to see that. And like, because usually when you're kind of streaming on YouTube, you get to that black hole, and it's just like, I just want to watch more videos. I want to do this. Like, hopefully, this just like snaps you like, oh shit, I should be going out to doing this, or I need to get this done, or I had this idea, I should probably act on it. Just do
Oh,
more.
so not do more in a sense of watching more content, but do more as in go create something.
Yeah, literally, yeah.
Okay. Next one. What is the best purchase or investment you made for yourself in the last year?
Oh, that's hard. My Mac Pro.
Okay.
Yeah, it's this huge computer. It's that cheese grater computer thing. But honestly, eh, it's because it's allowed me to create content faster, and I can just like edit and stream. Like as a creator, your biggest inhibitor is like lag and render time. Everyone will talk about it like, oh, it takes so long to load this. And I feel like when that interrupts your creative process, it's no bueno. It's not fun. Like it ruins this flow. So anytime I can invest back into my own processes, like I'll do that. And this has been such a great investment.
I love it. What is the best feedback you got in improving your reach on social media as a teacher slash content creator?
Best feedback. There's a lot, but my favorite ones are the ones where it was like, you've changed my life, or they've gone from just being a fan to like becoming a client through online coaching. Like, I know these are supposed to be fast fire, but one of the stories was I was working with a dad. He was kind of going through a divorce. He had 3 kids, completely, for lack of a better word, just out of shape, like huge belly and everything. And we worked together. We crushed 3 months. He literally looked like he went from like late 40s to early 20s. Like he looks like
What?
one of us. Like you would have never thought this dude's a dad. Like he's just ripped now. And he went from barely doing push-ups to full-on calisthenics and levers and stuff. And
What?
he for him, like for me to see that, and then for him to tell me that you changed my life, that was the thing that was like, dude, I can do this for a living. I love this shit. This is amazing.
Dude, that's beautiful. What would you have done differently going back as a content creator, like as you were first starting out?
Say no to more things that involved me investing into other things that were not me. Like anytime I had to like invest and do projects for other people, I should have just said no and continued to focus on my own craft. And to paint you a picture, damn, you're supposed to be fast fire, but so many good stories right here. I met
We
this
can
guy on
change this.
social
Slow
media.
fire.
Slow fire. It's like a torch just going. But for example, the time when I was producing video commercials, the money was amazing. And I met this creator through social media, internet. Like we would just like comment on each other's stuff. His name's Mr. London. Shout out to you, brother. He would always just be motivating to me, and I would motivate him. And the way I see it, like I don't know him like personally on that level, but we were both at 10,000 subscribers. He doesn't know this, but I was trying to race him and just like beat him to 20, beat him to 50 and stuff. But the commercial money got so good, I started slowing down on my content production, and I went the commercial route. So I got paid out really, really well. But he continued doing YouTube. And in that same year, I made um, a good amount of money. He reached 1 million subscribers. I saw him go from single father taking care of his kid, like struggling to buying like a Range Rover for his mom, buying a new apartment for himself and all this. And he reached 1 million YouTube subscribers. Like that is absolutely insane. He turned his whole life around. And just seeing that, I just know now, like anytime I have to do a project or something that takes me from investing back into myself, I should start saying no to that, because I need to just invest into myself. Like that's the way to do it.
Wow. Yeah, that's a powerful lesson. I can feel your experience as you're describing it. So thank you, Mr. London. When you feel overwhelmed or unfocused, what do you do?
I turn to my passions and hobbies that I have outside of the space, and I try to keep these off camera. I say off camera because camera is usually my work. So anytime it's rolling, it's like it feels like work. So lately that's been tennis. Like anytime I like feel stressed or I just want like a change of pace, like I'll go out and play tennis with a couple friends or with my wife. And I try to just leave it off camera. Like sometimes it's just so exciting. The rallies are so good. You just want to record it. But for me, like there's like a switch in my brain, like, oh, if we're recording, it's like work, and it's just like too close to that. But yeah, to answer your question, I go off and do things that are completely off camera, and I have moments that are off camera that I just don't share on social media, because that allows me to distinguish and separate it between work and play.
I love it. I think that's powerful. What is an unusual habit or something absurd that you love?
Something I don't really share across social media is just reading manga and manhwa and like watching anime and stuff. Like I started with manga, but now there's like these it's like Korean versions of manga, and I don't know what it's called exactly, but like every page is colored, the art is freaking amazing, and the storylines are great. And I don't share that with social media, but like just recently I started, and I was like, "Whoa, you read Solo Leveling too, or you watched this one too?" It's like that was really cool. Like I didn't even know there's like a whole community of people like out there like that, because I was like, these chapters aren't getting a lot of views right now, so I don't know if this is something I share, you know?
Well, I don't think that's absurd, but thank you for sharing.
I think the fact that I think it's absurd is absurd.
All right, I have one last question for you.
All right.
What are you grateful for right now?
I'm grateful to be in good health. I'm grateful that my family, my wife, my mom, my dad, my sister, everyone's in good health, and we can all have a good laugh. We can all have an amazing time together. We can all have good company together. Like by the end of the day, there's levels of success that you want to achieve to, but you got to ask yourself why? Like why do you want to make 7-8 figures a year? Like why do you want to get here? And to me, the whole reason of why I wanted to even do my own business was to get time back. And I realized like I'm actually kind of at that point where like I'm happy financially, but most importantly, I have time. Like if I want to if I want to end this podcast right now and go like home to my mom and just hug her and say hi or whatever, like I can. And to me, it like that would be my definition of my own success. Like I can actually do that. Like if anyone needs anything from me right now, I can do that. I have the freedom and the ability to do that.
Jeremy, thank you for being on the show. Where can people find you?
You can find me on Instagram at Jeremy Sry. You can find me on TikTok, the same handle. YouTube, literally the same thing, and it's pronounced Sry, so like fry but with an S. Some people don't know how to say it. Yeah, we have our own podcast too. It's called the 80/20 series. It's on every platform that you listen to podcasts as well, and we'd love to bring you on too, man.
Oh, appreciate it. Yeah. Once again, Jeremy, thank you for being on. Thank you for being on the show. And everyone else, we will see you next time. Peace.
Peace. See you guys.
Hey everyone, thank you so much for listening. If you haven't done so already, please smash that like button, subscribe, and click on that notification bell. It would really mean a lot because it would help the algorithm push these types of videos to the right people. And if you do like this video, comment down below who would you like to see on as a guest. All right, hope you all stay safe, and I'll see you on the next one. Peace.